Hi, I'm Lady Genevieve, and although 2022 might be terrible in almost every way you didn't realize was possible, the one good thing I can say about this year is that as a film fan, this is a year of comebacks. Jean-Pierre Jeunet released a new film. James Cameron is coming back to the big screen after over a decade. Sam Raimi has finally broken out of director's jail after 8 long years. And do you know who else has returned after 8 years to the big screen? Baz Luhrmann. He is back with a brand new glittering masterpiece, the likes of which only he can deliver. I loved this movie. I loved it so much, and I expected that I would enjoy it because it's a Baz Luhrmann film, but I just didn't know I was going to end up being as emotionally moved as I was. If you were already following me on Twitter, you might have seen me a while back jokingly tweet some memes about not really being interested in the idea of an Elvis biopic, but when it's directed by Baz Luhrmann, you have my attention. So this video will have spoilers for the movie, but considering that it's a biopic, I don't know if it's the same thing to talk about spoilers for this material as it is to spoil a film that's an entirely original idea and story. One of the things that was so unexpected about watching this film play out was the fact that there was so much about Elvis's story that I didn't know. I think a lot of younger people online have grown accustomed to a certain narrative about Elvis where he is seen as an overrated artist who got famous off of songs from black artists. And this narrative makes it out to be something maliciously done on his part. But watching Baz Luhrmann's Elvis, it was made very clear pretty quickly at the beginning of the film what the reality of that entire situation was. So for starters, he grew up poor in a predominantly black neighborhood, and as a result, he had a deeper introduction to and appreciation of things like Beale Street, rhythm and blues. He knew about hairstyling and grooming. I was doing some quick skimming online, and there were mentions of his using jojoba oil. Some of Elvis's records were in fact covers or songs from black artists and musicians, but it was pretty common for artists to cover each other's songs, and artists still do that to this day. Either that or you don't do a full cover, but perhaps you might sample a hook, a melody, some lyrics, what have you, in order to create your own song while borrowing from others. I think the narrative around Elvis escalated to the point where people were presuming that he had some malicious scheme to get famous off of black music. In the film, though, we see this scene where his eventual manager and abuser, Tom Parker, hears one of Elvis's early records playing on local radio and is dismissive of the song when he believes that it's a black artist singing it. But as soon as he is corrected and made aware of the fact that this very good record that is proving to be popular with the youth is being sung by a white artist, he does a complete 180. Now he wants to find the artist and try to help launch them into superstardom because he sees the opportunity to make a whole lot of money off of them. The film is directly pointing out that Elvis is not only good in his own right, but he is being presented with opportunities that his black counterparts would not be offered. They show Elvis in this film giving respect and credit to black artists, to black musicians, and being deeply affected by the assassinations of Martin Luther King and also Robert Kennedy, and wanting to be more political as an artist and a public figure, but having all of these nefarious businessmen, these capitalists, just wanting him to shut up and sing and dance and make them money. They don't want him to rebel against the most powerful institutions that need to be rebelled against. I really loved so many things about this film, but the one critique that I had was that I wasn't always fond of the narrative choice to keep so much of the story from Tom Parker's perspective, though there are still plenty of scenes where it's showing Elvis and what's going on with him personally and professionally without Tom Parker being in the scene. I just wanted more of those scenes because that's ultimately what we are emotionally invested in as viewers. Apparently, though, Baz Luhrmann has stated that there is a 4-hour version of this movie. I don't just want to see it, I need to see it. release the Lerman cut. The more I think about it though, I sort of go back and forth about whether or not I think it was a good idea to use Tom Parker's perspective as a narrative device. I do wish that I had more material focusing on Elvis's story without it being through the lens of Tom Parker in this film. However, I think that Baz Luhrmann was making some important points about the predatory, abusive behavior that runs rampant in not only the music industry, but show business in general, as well as just society overall. But before I elaborate more on that, I want to take a quick detour to praise how visually stunning Baz Luhrmann's Elvis is. I expect nothing less from Baz Luhrmann, and he absolutely delivered. The costumes, the colors, the editing, there is so much in the visual presentation of this film that is vibrant and bombastic. I hate the forced respectability of cinema, where only certain types of films are likely to get showered with awards during award show season in Hollywood. Baz Luhrmann is one of those directors that will spend his career making stunning, exquisite art, influencing generations of artists and performers, and then maybe 20 years from now, when he's 80 years old, the Academy will probably bestow an honorary Oscar to try to capitalize on his name, when they've never once nominated him for Best Director, not even for Moulin Rouge when they nominated it for Best Picture. Elvis has everything you want from a Baz Luhrmann picture. Stunning visual artistry, a pretty boy lead who is sad while wearing eyeliner, and a banging soundtrack. That brings us to a very important detail I want to put a spotlight on. There is a point in this film where there is a montage of Elvis experiencing a lot of success in show business, and during this montage they have music by Elvis Presley playing, and it's been remixed with the instrumental track of Britney Spears' Toxic. At first, I thought that was an exciting idea simply because that song is an iconic classic in the pop genre, but once I saw the entirety of Baz Luhrmann's Elvis and it showed what happened to Elvis towards the later years of his life, I was shocked by how the story of what happened to Elvis is still so relevant today. So Elvis wanted to go on a world tour, but he wasn't able to do that because his manager, Thomas Parker, was an undocumented immigrant from the Netherlands living under a fake name, so obviously he didn't have a passport either. Thomas Parker also had a massive, rapidly escalating gambling addiction, so he enacted a scheme to keep Elvis locked in a golden cage in Las Vegas, doing shows he didn't want to be doing. And then after Elvis died, a series of lawsuits exposed Thomas Parker's financial abuse of Elvis. Obviously, the cases aren't identical, but there was no denying that when I watched it, I immediately thought of Britney Spears and the Free Britney movement. The movie even showed how there was nefarious medical malpractice involved, where people were complicit in drugging up Elvis. There is a point where Elvis collapses and he's really not doing well, and it's evident that he needs to be taken to a hospital and be provided with real medical treatment, but instead, they just shoot him up with something, I don't exactly know what it was, to get him up and moving again so he can do yet another Vegas show to turn a profit. It became really hard to watch, but there was so much love and empathy in the approach to telling this story, and I really appreciate that they didn't rely on the shock value of making a spectacle out of Elvis's addiction and his weight gain towards the end of his life. Britney Spears spent all that time being trapped, controlled, and not having autonomy over her own body. Elvis wasn't able to be as present for his daughter as he would have liked because he wasn't able to have the freedom of choice to go where he wanted, when he wanted, or to take the time off to care for his health when he clearly needed to do so. Britney forcibly had an IUD kept in her body, even though she wanted to try to have another baby for many years. The parallels and the unfortunately timeless quality of this story made it all the more tragic to watch, but it was very moving. And I know Baz Luhrmann loves a good tragedy. It's what he's known for at this point. Romeo and Juliet, Moulin Rouge, The Great Gatsby, and now Elvis Presley. Baz Luhrmann will make you fall in love with his story and his characters, and you're gonna weep profusely while you do it. I was crying by the time we got to the end of this film. Tears were streaming down my face. I actually called a friend afterwards to tell them about this film and how it was really good, and that they needed to go see it, and I was noting how It really feels like a film that needs to get added to the revolutionary lists and playlists because it fits in seamlessly with other anti-capitalist films. So Britney Spears was able to finally regain her freedom, and she's still alive, thankfully. She got married to her boyfriend, who will not get a single cent if their marriage ever ends, and good for her. But Elvis sadly did not survive what these evil, greedy capitalists did to him. Their priority was to put profits over people, which is exactly what people in positions of power do. Another example of that being politicians who will listen to their corporate donors and ignore the demands of the people at large who voted them into office. The ending of Baz Luhrmann's Elvis was especially heart-wrenching because they saved one of the most emotional songs for the end. So they start with Austin Butler performing as Elvis, the song Unchained Melody, before switching it to the real footage of Elvis's performance, which Austin had just been recreating. And then they proceed to show even more footage of the real Elvis. It was just this massive emotional gut punch that I didn't expect to impact me as much as it did. But by that point, we had gone on this whole journey with Elvis Presley. And even though you know how the movie is going to end, Baz Luhrmann and Austin Butler had gotten me very invested in this person and in his heart. Another reason why this movie belongs on the revolutionary playlist is because the beginning of the film shows that Elvis was wanting to pursue more opportunities as a musician and performer because he wanted to help his family, because he had grown up in a life where they were all extremely poor. It was never about his desire for fame and glory. He was just this kid who loved music and his family. There are a lot of other facets of this film that contributed to why I loved it so much, but for now, I think I've made some of the main points I would like to emphasize for now. I didn't want to let this film be slept on during its initial cinematic release without me saying anything to try to encourage more people to see it if they haven't already, or go see it again. I plan on going and seeing it more than once. I just need to find the right time. My schedule is changing up a bit right now, so I'm trying to get acclimated to that. But I am not letting this leave cinemas without me going again. Maybe a couple of times. I don't know. We'll see. But thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support my channel. I talk about different works of entertainment media, such as films and television series, and maybe I will revisit Elvis in the future, video-wise, but for now, I just wanted to make sure that I shared a few words of praise for what is currently my favorite film of 2022. We'll see where it ends up being in my overall ranking once the second half of the year gets all of its releases out, but that's how I feel currently. And I'm aware that there has been some chatter about whether or not Austin Butler might be in the running to get nominated for any number of acting awards during the Hollywood Award Show season. To that I would say, if he is recognized for his performance, then of course I will congratulate him fully, but at the same time, the fact that Baz Luhrmann and his leading performers have been so thoroughly snubbed for the duration of Baz's career really lets me know that none of that matters as much as the impact that Baz's work and the labor of all of his cast and crew do time after time. To me, the greatest victory would just be that it's a successful film, that more people are able to see it and be emotionally moved by it, and that anytime Baz Luhrmann wants to make a movie, or if he wants to do another television series, that he is given all the freedom to do so, because we need his art and we need his perspective. That's it for now. See you in the next one. Bye.